Hi, Eric. Jordy, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Of course. We even have Johannes back this week.
We can wait for a couple minutes. I think this time it should be a quiet meeting because I don't expect a lot of interns. Most of the interns should be back.
Yeah.
Hi, Johannes. Welcome back.
Hi, Riley. Hi, all.
What's your vacation?
Vacation was great. So I was a full 4 days without phone and computer. So it was very recuperating.
You live in Oregon, right?
Yes, Portland.
Portland. It's just probably like 3 hours driving from Seattle there. I've been there twice.
Yeah. Actually, we drove for the 3 hours to the south, to the coast. So we spent the vacation at Newport.
Okay, I think we can start. I hope this meeting will be very short because most of the interns have done their project and should be ready to prepare for their school stuff. Let me share my desktop. And I do have some topic about how we can make this project more formal because we do want to get this to a more production ready state.
Yes.
I'll see that at the end of this meeting. Okay, so the first topic, I want to see if folks are okay with having an alternative time. So in C# and the Go language, it seems like folks have been practicing this for a while. And in OpenTelemetry Python, we used to work in that way, but now we moved back because most of the community members are in the same or similar time zone. For C++, the reason I'm looking for this change is because I do have a developer in the team who's in the IST time zone. So 8 a.m. would be probably 7:30 p.m. for him. Otherwise, 3 p.m. is like 2:30 a.m. for him, which is impossible. So I hopefully I can eventually make him a approver and maintainer for this project. So he will be spending most of his time dedicated on this project. And he used to be a C++ low-level developer working on Android, iOS, those stuff, and have experience on the telemetry SDKs. So just want to see if folks think 8 a.m. is too early, or we can probably accommodate the time. Currently, it's not decided because I need to find a slot from the public OpenTelemetry calendar. So just trying to explore. Probably it'll move to a different date of the week.
8 a.m. is okay for me.
That would be okay for me too. I mean, this person that you have working there, when would they be able to start?
I think he's already sending some of the PR. It's Lalit, so you should be already see that. And okay. So literally he's starting now. And based on the situation, so we originally planned to move him here, but his visa got issued because of this pandemic situation. So hopefully that shouldn't take more than 6 months.
I'm fine with 8 a.m. too. No concerns.
I know 8 a.m. is a bit early, so thanks for the accommodation here. So we can try, and later we figure it's not going to work well, we can always adjust the time. I think initially we were talking this with Emil because he's in Australia, and looks like the time was not working for him quite well. So we hardly see him. Hopefully this would work better for him. Okay, next topic. Eric on the Prometheus.
Okay, cool. So just some updates on the exporter. I got the collector PR was merged. And I know you merged that without review, Riley. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen with that. Like, is that going to get reviewed later, or is that just going to stay as is? I'm not really too sure what's happening there, but this is my last week here, so I'm not sure if reviews did happen later. I'm not sure if I could do anything about that. But I was just wondering where we were with the collector PR.
Yeah, so quick update for everyone here. So I probably will I was busy and probably will be busy this week because I got another like on-call rotation this week. So
Yeah.
for this Prometheus, like the series of Prometheus PR, I think number one thing is to make sure things are like working end to end. So you got the CI, everything is green, and based on the time, so either like Johannes or me or like someone else from the community can help to review the code. But in general, when we start this project, we try to assign mentor for different work stream. And we got like mentor like Johannes, me, and Max committed on certain work streams. This Prometheus was kind of unfortunate, left over. We don't have a strong commitment from anyone. So people are trying to help, but there's no commitment. And that's why we're kind of a little bit off track. And in this case, I think as a balance, I think it's fine to get the PR merged as long as the CI is clean and we don't touch any other part. If you want to touch the other parts of the repo, I think as long as the change is small and reasonable, we can take a priority and review them. But in general, I wouldn't put like Prometheus PR review as my priority because I have other higher priority things. And in this case, like to unblock you, I think it makes sense to get those PR merged as long as everything is green and it's not like changing the other part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Regarding the status, so I think the current code, I'm trying to move fast instead of trying to get something at the production quality at the very beginning. So this has been an experience we learned from other repo as well. We want to quickly try and see what we can get and then get all the learnings instead of trying to move slowly but build something stable and later realized, oh, something is not working and we have to rebuild the entire stuff. So with that, I think the current metrics, the entire metrics part is not having a production quality, I would say. Like you can see all those like global logs and the memory allocations, those things. I think it's fine just to get the learning. And also metrics like spec itself is changing. So hopefully like by end of this week, we can have the OpenTelemetry tracing spec locked down. So the goal is to split the spec into tracing context, semantic convention, metrics, and logs, and focus on tracing semantic convention and context, and try to mark them as stable as soon as possible. And after that, we'll come back to metrics. So please expect there will be breaking changes in the metrics part, in the API, and in the SDK. So in this case, I think I wouldn't bother of spending too much time trying to polish this and later realize we have to redo that again. So take the learnings and get the code working. And I think that should be a good balance.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. And regarding your last question, how do we plan to revisit those PRs? I think we're not going to come back and revisit those PR and put comments once they are merged. We'll probably have some like dedicated like developer from either Microsoft or New Relic or some other, like Google folks mentioned, they're planning to add some like full-time employees on this project probably in the next couple weeks. So we expect like developers to join this community and take the responsibility to refactor some of the existing code. So don't worry about like people are going to comment on a closed PR and you have to respond. It shouldn't be such case.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. That's perfectly fine. So I guess for now I'll finish working on the CI issues I'm having in the last PR that we haven't merged yet, the Prometheus exporter class, and then once I get those figured out, then I guess it's good to go from there. And
Mhm.
then last thing to briefly touch on. One more thing before I talk about this, but thank you again, Riley, for merging the label name change PR. I know you just mentioned that it's not like changing the SDK isn't like something we should be like doing, but it was, again, like you said, it was a relatively minor change, and it was a reasonable change as well. So there wasn't any like breaking thing with that PR. So
Yeah.
thank you again for merging that.
First thing.
And then last thing is that I just filed 4 different PRs for just documentation things. These aren't like, I wouldn't say these are very high priority. I would just say that these are good resources for any new developers who want to start working to use. So I have a documentation for the Prometheus exporter design document, a README for the Prometheus exporter as well. And then we also have an example for the exporter. And then one last thing is a Google test demo that I filed an issue for, I think a month and a half ago. And it's just like an informational demo on how to use Google Test and how to test in the context of OpenTelemetry. And so I think it'd be pretty helpful, again, for new developers to reference. But I just have these filed, and you can take a look at them whenever you have time. But again, I don't think these are like extremely high priority either. So these are just for reference. And then the last thing I want to say is that this is probably my last C++ SIG meeting. So I guess I just want to say thank you to all of you. You guys have been super helpful for me throughout my internship. I feel like I learned a lot, and it's a really nice experience, really great learning experience. So I really enjoyed my time here. So thank you guys again for everything.
Yeah, thank you for the contribution, and look forward for the future like collaboration as well. You're always welcome to like come to this repo and like help to make some progress on the tracing or the metrics part.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Eric.
Okay, it seems like we have a short meeting this time. So I want to quickly have an update on the overall project status. So currently for the like the overall OpenTelemetry project, people are working very hard on trying to get the OpenTelemetry spec, at least the tracing part and the context part and the semantic convention for tracing. Those parts try to get like a stabilization as early as possible. So what I heard early this morning, there's a maintainers meeting at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Sorry. So in general, people believe that we can shoot for the stabilization of tracing part by end of this week. And so far, like we're trying to align the SDKs with all like the recent changes in the spec. So what I will do is I will take a look at the difference between our current SDK and the spec changes. For example, some of the sampler like parent or else are renamed as parent based. There's a like a probability sampler got renamed to like parent trace ID based sampler or something. So we have just done all the changes in the OpenTelemetry.net. I'll follow the similar approach to file some issues to track, and we need to change that in the C++ project. And the overall goal is to get 5 languages. I believe it is like Python, Go, and JavaScript, and .NET, and Java, GA by November timeframe. So C++ realized there's a physical limitation. So hopefully we can get to a preview version, something like alpha or beta. We don't have alpha like official release today. So I hope before November at some point we can get an alpha release just to cover the tracing part, try to make that as close to the latest spec as possible. And at that time, the spec on the tracing part should be already finalized. So whatever we have should be like a stable API. It's just like probably the SDK is not stress tested and those things, so we cannot announce that as a GA status. And for metrics part, we'll just follow the other SDK. So my current guess is we'll probably spend some time in the OpenTelemetry.net to catch up the metrics part, and C++ will follow that. Historically, we have been following the OpenTelemetry Python SDK because Python SDK made the first movement. So it used to be the first released beta version of the OpenTelemetry SDK, and things are, I think at least at that time, were in a very good shape. But recently, some of the Python maintainers and approvers changed. So I quit from that project just to focus on the other stuff, and Chris from Google quit, focus on some internal Google stuff. So currently, we have a maintainer from Microsoft working on that, but he's a little bit overloaded without help from the others. So this is an issue. And on .NET side, we're making better progress because we put more developers. So in C++, we try to get the same amount of investment. And I think moving forward, probably we need to follow .NET more closely because .NET is now catching up with Python, and some of the like context and simpler, and also the processing pipeline is now much closer to the spec. So probably like better from the spec perspective comparing to Python. That's my update. So I want to quickly get the feedback from folks here. Like from your side, like any potential dependency that you would expect OpenTelemetry C++ to arrive at a certain maturity. For example, you want to have that GA probably like early next year, or some of the things that you think it might be challenging for you. For example, if, like you just realized we're not going to GA by November, just the like project management timeline feedback from you guys.
Well, I'd be curious. Like, it feels like we should tackle traces first and like get that all the way through to like meet the spec as closely as possible. And I'm not sure how much work is left for that. It's if I was to come in here as a total newbie, and which I am, let's say basically, because I've been to 3 meetings and I still don't have a good sense of this. Like which one of the issues, and I know you're going to be open some more, but which one of these issues should I, as a newbie, like work on first? Which are the high priority ones to get us to GA? You know, and I just threw out that I believe that we should do the traces piece first and get that all the way through. But that's, you know, if we were to do that, you know, maybe could we mark that somehow on a project board and say, here's what we need, and here's the work, you know, to be done, you know, to get us through to that milestone.
I mean, that's something that I actually wanted to suggest that, I mean, I can do that. I can, and maybe with Jody together, I can like add a project to like on the GitHub project board for just the traces part. And I try like to identify what currently is, what we still are lacking from the spec, and parts of implementations that are immature, because I think the context part needs some kind of a overhaul, at least parts of it, and I could create issues for that and add that to our project board, and then we would get an idea like what is actually still missing. And also Riley then could add issues to there, like based on the spec finalization.
And,
yeah, I was just thinking about this matrix because I saw that matrix that Riley just brought up, and that could serve as a great template for just creating issues for stuff that you're still missing.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, so just give a quick update. So the spec now has a matrix, and I think currently we focus on the traces part because it's almost complete. I think like folks got action item to do later today to make it complete. And after that, we should be able to see like where we are. And like once we figure out the status, we can mark the like the items that we need to do just for traces. And for metrics resource, those part, I think currently is low priority, so we can probably forget about them for now. And the context propagation, error handling, those parts are important, but I think it's not a blocking issue for us. So it's some internal renaming. Most of the folks wouldn't use those like context propagation API at this moment. I think it's probably like, I would say that's a P2. So tracing would be P1, and context propagation error handling and exporter probably P2, and anything else is P3.
Agreed. I think that sounds very reasonable to me.
That sounds great, yeah. And Riley, if you're okay with that, then I will go through this list and set up and write issues for what we're missing.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I can take a stab just to go through. So how about this? I'll send the initial PR to the spec just to update what we have for the C++ project, and I'll add you and wonder like what's your GitHub alias, Jody?
Jody V, Jodee V as in Victor.
Would
And
you put that in the
yes, I was
the
just going to
meeting
say
note?
I'll put that
Yeah.
in the notes.
Okay, so I'll add both of you and also Max and Lalit in the PR just to capture like where we are in the current C++ project. And then after we agreed on where we are, the PR got merged. I'll file issue based on what we're missing, and that'll be okay.
That
Right.
sounds okay.
Cool.
And I think it would be just one thing that it would be great to like have the issues that are related to the tracing part grouped together, maybe in a project. So
Oh
that
yeah.
we can
So
better follow that and get an idea of where we stand.
yeah, so I'm not 100% sure where I understand what you mentioned fully, but I'll share some of the tagging we have. So this is not invented by OpenTelemetry.net.
Right.
It is applied to all the OpenTelemetry projects.
Yeah.
So we have this area is based on like which
Labels.
folder we have,
Yeah.
and then we have some very generic thing like whether we need this for GA or not for GA and different priorities. So currently in .NET, we don't have this specific area, whether it's tracing or metrics. I think I've seen like in the spec, we have more tags. So
Riley, if you click at the top there, if you went back to that repo and click on projects and see what it said, or not, sorry, not here, but yeah, .NET. And actually the JavaScript repo is pretty good. Like it actually breaks out this rather than having just one project board for GA tracker. It has project boards for traces and metrics, etc.
Yeah.
That's what we mean.
Yeah, so in the OpenTelemetry spec, you can see we have a better like view of the projects. I think there's probably don't have access. There's the
no, yeah, they didn't seem to use it. They seem to be using just pure tags at the project level.
Yeah.
Sorry, at the OpenTelemetry level, not to confuse the word project.
Sorry, what you mean? This one?
Yeah, here in
like
the OpenTelemetry specification, they're not using projects. That's what I'm saying.
I think in the old tabs there are some like projects. Yes.
What I mean, see, like the tool called projects in GitHub is what I'm referring to. So there, see here at the top, you clicked on projects. So yeah.
You want something like this, right?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So in general, like I'm fine. I think like you want to act as the triager role to manage those items, it'll be helpful.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
I just pasted a link for the JavaScript repository that Jody mentioned, and I think it's helpful for people to get an overview. Like Jody, I mean, she's more in the product manager role, and I think it's helpful to get an overview of where we stand, for example, with traces. Also, like in talking to our customers and maybe showing them, yeah, that's where we are, that's what's still missing. And I think it would be great to have something like that. And I think Jody and we could like manage that. If you're okay with that, Riley, we then could set up this project and move the issues.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
And I, just for what you said before, I also share your estimate that we might have something alpha or beta in autumn, but that the final GA for traces might be next year. I think that is realistic.
Yeah.
Riley, I have a question. Can you guys hear me actually?
Yeah, I can.
Yes.
Cool. I just did some changes in my setup here. So depending on destination or exporter or system we're going to use for the data store, like some customers might go with the OTLP exporter, Google Cloud, New Relic, Lightstep, whatever. And in a few scenarios, I'm looking at ETW and our internal Microsoft agent, which will capture the info gathered through OpenTelemetry API surface. So I'm thinking in terms of readiness, like for each destination. Should we have some sort of matrix that says, hey, we're done and it works end to end with this destination? And perhaps like, you know, as a result, a README markdown document says how you the instrument to route your telemetry to Lightstep or New Relic or Google Cloud, or how to emit ETW on Windows platform to ETW listener region. Should we have something like this? Because before, for example, Google Cloud Exporter is ready, I might have something for ETW path, for example.
Yeah, so Max, take a look at this, like here. These are the exporters recommended by the OpenTelemetry project to put under the specific SDK repo. Anything else will go to the registry. So you can click this, and different companies, they're free to register their own exporter libraries. So I think you can see something from Lightstep, I guess. Oh, there's already New Relic. This is contributed by Alan from New Relic, I believe. And there should be some like Lightstep exporters as well. So my suggestion would be take a look at the .NET and try to follow the approach.
Yeah, and I think those vendor-specific things that are not recommended by OpenTelemetry that will not block any GA of OpenTelemetry CPP.
Yeah,
I would say.
Is this done the same way for other projects, like for JavaScript and Java and Python? Or is this matrix unique to .NET?
Yeah. No, it is not specific to .NET. So we're not doing anything specific to a language.
No, that's not what I meant. Is it generic mechanism how we track the availability of exporters for various destinations?
So what I suggested to you is the overall practice for OpenTelemetry.
Okay. Should we mention concrete examples in our repo for each of these, or how does that work? Like, where's the boundary between what we show in our examples versus what's belonging to some other repo?
So there's a guidance. I can send you the link.
Let me rephrase my question. For ETW and Windows, where ETW is kind of event tracing for Windows and the standard pretty much mechanism recommended by the platform, should we have something as part of this repo?
No. It is Windows specific. So it shouldn't be here.
I kind of disagree in a way, but okay.
This is against the OpenTelemetry overall governance. So if you see a value, you can open a PR or open an issue and discuss. But by default, it shouldn't go here.
So as an argument, for example, console exporter. Well, console is a great tool, right? But it's mentioned as one of the first things. I'd say that event tracing on Windows is the first thing on Windows.
Yeah, so you can debate that on the spec and make that happen. Otherwise, we'll just refuse that from the SDK perspective. I'll give you the link and show you.
What's special about Jagger and Zipkin?
They got approval by the spec.
So in order for ETW, for event tracing on Windows to be approved, we need to bring it to the spec, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I think here is it's about the different SDKs consistency, because if we bring it to the spec, this means that every language should implement it. And I think that is probably the stumbling block here.
All right.
Yeah, so there's a compliance matrix, and it also defines what things should we put here. So I'll search for Jaeger. Yeah, so you see it. These are the recommendations. If you want to put something else, then send a PR to the spec and solve that problem first. So this is the general thinking, like how you can, like, we should never do something specific for this SDK unless this is a specific scenario for C++.
Okay. Good.
Okay, any other topics? No one can return in 30 minutes to everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Riley.
Have a good one. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.